back to the TISC YouTube channel. I'm Coach Indy. We're on episode 25 of the Premier League Appetiser show. Today's episode we'll be talking all things game week 24, talking about all the standout moments throughout that. We're looking ahead to game week 25, just preview some of those games. Also be talking about Indy versus the rest of the world, which I made a bit of a boo-boo, which I'll discuss later on. And then we've got a couple of other things, injury news and some other news. We're actually going to start off with some other news, so I'll crack straight into it. The latest round of COVID tests in the Premier League, there were 2 positive cases, which is a massive drop-off compared to the last, well, probably the last half a dozen rounds, even longer than that. So yeah, 2 positive cases amongst the players and the staff, which is really, really minimal. Guardiola, so Pep Guardiola, the Manchester City manager, he is worried that the number of positive cases will increase during the next international break. So the next international break is in March, sort of about 3 weeks away, and he's fearful that when not only his players but every player from various clubs join up with the national team, the numbers will increase, because invariably his players, other players will all be going into different countries, different bubbles, all that kind of thing. And actually he thinks the numbers will increase, which is he's worried about. He's probably fearful of losing some players. I did hear that actually during there's been 3 international breaks this season so far, and the first 2 the actual numbers decreased from the international break, which actually I found really interesting. However, the November, the last of the international breaks, closer to Christmas, the numbers did increase. So it'll be interesting to see what way this one goes. Are we sort of coming out of that cold winter period where the numbers might decrease again, or are we going to still be part of it? So yeah, that's sort of Pep Guardiola's concerns on that. I can understand that, if I'm totally honest. Especially he's trying to protect obviously his club and his players, etc. But I think he's got more of a general concern of every player and every club. Well, maybe not necessarily every club, but just generally for football players in general, I'd say. Moving on to a slightly funnier story, which I found funny anyway. Referee Darren Drysdale, he refereed a match in League One between Ipswich and Northampton. You might have heard of this, guys, but basically what's happened is he's squared up. So the referee has squared up to one of the Ipswich players, like literally squared up just here, like. And I don't know how it sort of all come about. There might have been some bells on the pitch, there might have been some previous throughout the game, I don't know. But anyway, on the back of it, all of a sudden you just see him square up and then dish out a yellow card to this player, Alan Judge of Ipswich. So anyway, on the back of that, the FA have come out and said that they've charged him for improper conduct, which is totally understandable. Like, the referee is there to officiate the game, not to sort of get involved with anything in terms of, like, you know, verbals thrown over each way, that kind of thing. So I found that quite funny, but maybe a little bit disturbing at the same time. Some more positive news then. Mason Greenwood from Manchester United has signed a contract until 2025, which is really, really good news for Manchester United. A really sort of young, promising talent, exciting talent as well, signing a contract to 2025 with a view to extending that for a further year as well. The FA and the EFL are in talks with the government about having fans in the stadiums for the 2 showpiece events, i.e. the FA Cup final and the EFL Cup final, and they're hoping to get about a third of the stadium full. So the EFL Cup final, which traditionally normally takes place end of February, the first week of March, has been moved back to the end of April. I think you'd hope that fans will be in stadiums by then, and obviously the FA Cup final is traditionally the last game of the season after the season is finished. So hopefully by then we'll have some sort of fans in the stadium, which is hopefully be some promising news and obviously be beneficial for those clubs involved. We told you a story about Mike Dean last week about him getting sort of online abuse, and then his family as well, for some of the decisions he made the weekend before. And then he declared himself, or he asked the Referees Association to be withdrawn from last weekend's games. He is now back officiating this weekend, so we officiated Burnley versus West Brom, a very low-key affair. I think it's a smart decision from everybody involved there. Interesting comments come out from Wayne Rooney. Obviously Wayne Rooney is the relatively new manager for Derby County. He is of the opinion of that VAR should be scrapped, especially the Premier League, and the football is so much better without VAR. I kind of get that, especially from a fan's point of view and a player's point of view, but from an ownership and a business point of view and a managerial point of view, I think you probably would want it, because in the day your jobs and your ownerships are on the line, and your business, you know, everyone knows how much money is in the Premier League compared to being in the Championship. So I can understand from that point of view. I think there's pros and cons. We'll get into that in another episode, guys. And then last thing I want to talk about is the Premier League have announced that all games will be aired in the UK live until fans will be allowed back into the stadia. So that's good news. It's good that the sort of broadcasters and the Premier League have all sort of come to an agreement and said, like, this is what we need to do in order to help the nation, etc. So that's positive. Going to move on to some injury news. It's a new segment we started last week because of the transfer window is now shut. So we're going to give you some injury news that sort of happened over the last week or so. So Ilkay Gundogan has tweaked his groin. He missed, well, he did it in the Man City Spurs game last weekend, and they had a game last night, which he missed. And Guardiola's hoping to have him back possibly this weekend for Arsenal, if not for the Champions League time next midweek. So it's not sort of a long-term injury. KDB, should I say. He was back in full training. He actually played last night. He got sort of 15 minutes last night for Manchester City. So he's back for Manchester City, which is really, really good news. Just perfect timing, really, when the Champions League is about to sort of kick off, and you know, he can sort of add another element and another bit of quality to the team, really. Ben Mee missed yesterday's game against Fulham due to concussion protocols. Obviously now if a player has a head injury or possible concussion, they've got to miss X amount of days and not be available for, I think it's 10 days, I think it is, or certainly 7 days, 7 to 10 days I believe it is. So he wasn't available last night, and he should be back possibly for the weekend if it's just 7 days. If it's 10 days, it'll probably be the week after that. Charlie Taylor is also back for Burnley, the left back, the first choice left back. He'd missed the last sort of 3-4 games for a hamstring injury. So yeah, he played last night. I think he got through the game unscathed. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he did his hamstring in the last game that he played, which was Everton 2 games ago, if that makes sense. He missed the game at the weekend, which they played Fulham, and then he was hoping to be back against Manchester City last night. However, he missed that game as well. So they're hoping he'll be back for the Merseyside Derby against Liverpool. And then the last one, which is probably the worst injury. We don't obviously want injuries in the game, but it is part of the game. The young lad James Justin from Leicester, who was purchased from Luton, he has done his ACL, so he's going to be out for a significant period of time, probably the large part of this year, of 2021. So he'll be back probably, I imagine, September, October time later on this year. Going to move on to Indy versus the rest of the world. So just dive into those. So I mentioned earlier in the intro that I made a bit of a boo-boo, and what I meant by that is I didn't get all of my predictions in on time. So I should mention the person I'm playing against this week is sort of a family friend. His name's Pav. He's also a Manchester United fan. I need to get a Manchester United fan on because I feel like we've had quite a few Arsenal and Liverpool recently. So yeah, we've got him involved this time round. He was sort of keen as mustard, really. So yeah, I missed the Leicester, Liverpool, Palace, Burnley, Manchester City, Spurs, Brighton and Villa. Brighton versus Villa, sorry. I missed those 4 games, so I've got 0 points straight away. So this is where Pav can really make the difference on these 4 games. So he went for Leicester to beat Liverpool 2-1 and finished 3-1. So that's a great start. 2 points there, sorry, should I say. Palace versus Burnley. Finished 3-0 to Burnley, which was, the win to Burnley is not unexpected, but the fact that it's 3 goals and a 3-goal margin was definitely surprising. He went for a 2-1 Burnley win, so he's picked up another 2 points, so he's done 4 already. Manchester City versus Spurs, he went for a 3-1 win, and he's picked up another 2 points there. And then Brighton versus Villa, this finished 0-0, and he went for a Villa 1-0 win, so he doesn't pick up any points there. So after them 4 games, it's 6-0. Oh, Indy 0 points, rest of the world 6. So this is now where I can hopefully try and get some points back, he says boldly. So Southampton versus Wolves, I went for a 1-1, he went for a 0-0. Finished actually 2-1 to Wolves, actually a good turnaround for them. so 0 points apiece. West Brom versus Man United, both being Man United fans, you expect us to go Man United wins. I went for a 3-1 win, he went for a 3-0 win, and it finished 1-1, so again 0 points apiece. Aston versus Leeds, I went for 2-2, he went for a Leeds 2-1 narrow victory, and Arsenal ran out winners in this game 4-2. Everton versus Fulham, I went for a 2-1 Everton, he went for a 2-0 Everton, and it finished 2-0 to Fulham, so that was a really sort of a big shock. Maybe less of a shock looking back at it now, because in the midweek before, Everton did play 120 minutes against Spurs, and they didn't really rotate too many players, so maybe a bit of fatigue kicked in there. Nevertheless, 0 points there. West Ham versus Sheffield United, I went for 2-0 to West Ham. He went 3-1 to West Ham, and it finished 3-0, so we both picked up 2 points, so I'm off the mark. Not many games left to go, so that makes it 8-2 to Pav. Chelsea versus Newcastle, I went for a 3-1 win, he went for a 2-0 win, and it finished 3-0, so we both picked up 2 points there. Moving on to Everton versus Manchester City, I went for a Man City 3-1 win, he went for a 3-0 win to Manchester City, and it finished 3-1 to Manchester City, so I picked up 5, he's picked up 2, so it's a good sort of score for me there, if you like. And then the last game, which is Burnley versus Fulham, we both went for Burnley wins. I went 1-0, he went 2-0, and it finished actually 1-1, so we don't pick up any points there. So scores on the doors for this week were, I managed to get out with I want to say respectable 9. It kind of is, given the fact I missed 4 games, but overall it's probably not a great score because it's actually 2 extra fixtures. So yeah, I've got 9, and then Pav has picked up 10 for the rest of the world. So that brings the cumulative scores to Indy 178, and then the rest of the world 166. So if my maths is correct, that's a 12-point advantage still. So it could have been a lot worse, guys, actually. But I'm quite relieved I've just got through that, and then we'll go again for the following week, and we'll have another guest on there as well. So now I'm just going to move on to reviewing game week 24, guys. So let's run through some of those games. So Leicester versus Liverpool, obviously it finished 3-1 to Leicester, sorry, excuse me, and Liverpool looked like they were set for 3 points after Salah scoring a really, really magnificent goal with Firmino sort of amazing bit of skill to sort of set Salah perfectly, and he just sort of caressed it into the side net, and then with about 20 minutes to go you think Liverpool could do enough here to see it out. However, I don't like to talk about errors, but it does happen in the game. Alisson has had a couple of moments where, again, he's cost the team, and it cost his teammate in terms of Kabak a really good debut, because I actually thought he played really well. I wouldn't say just up to that point, he actually played well generally throughout the whole game, even after sort of the moments where the goals happened. Goals for Barnes, I think Maddison got involved as well with a free kick, and then obviously Jamie Vardy had the easiest goal ever. So yeah, 3-1 win for Leicester. That puts them sort of joint second in the league along with Manchester United, and puts a further dent into Liverpool's sort of, I wouldn't even say title hopes now, it's more European Champions League hopes more so. Touched on Crystal Palace 0, Burnley 3. Like I said, 3-0 to Burnley. Three goals for Burnley home or away is a pretty good achievement, but obviously particularly away from home. Yeah, Loughton was the sort of the most spectacular goal, and the right back who doesn't really score ever. That might be his first goal for Burnley, and I think his first goal in like 8 to 10 years, maybe 8 years I think it was. But nevertheless, a good result for them, and that pushes them back further away from the relegation zone. Man City versus Spurs, it finished 3-0 to Manchester City. A convincing win for Manchester City, I would say. And again, it probably a little bit of, because Spurs played midweek and played 120, and Man City did play midweek as well, but they played a really sort of not depleted team in their cup game, but they rotated a lot and they were able to rest players. So yeah, obviously Gundogan, the sort of the main source of goals at the moment. And obviously just puts Manchester City even further to the top of the league. Brighton versus Villa, on paper I thought this would be a really, really good game. And it kind of was to a certain extent, but it never lived up to the complete billing in terms of the goals, I would suggest. because both teams do play attractive football. And maybe you could say they cancel each other out in that respect. Decent point for Brighton. It keeps their sort of momentum going. Another clean sheet as well. And another clean sheet for Martinez and the Villa boys, especially defensively. Moving to Sunday, Southampton 1, Wolves 2. Danny Ings got an absolutely terrific goal to put Southampton 1-0 up, and then turned it around with Neves sort of gone for the penalty spot, which probably wasn't a penalty, I'll suggest. However, it was given, and then it wasn't overturned through VAR. And then Wolves have picked up a really good win there, and that sort of eases their worries a little bit as well, because they have been sort of on a downward spiral. Not so much sort of the previous sort of couple of 2-3 games, more so the battle of say maybe 10 games. They haven't been themselves, if you like. West Brom, Manchester United. So really good point for West Brom. Firstly, I'll say 1-0 up in the first sort of couple of minutes. The new lad, I think it's Dianga, I think his name is pronounced. He scored a goal, and I mean Lindelof should do better, but nevertheless he scored a goal, put them 1-0 up, and straight away they've got West Brom. They've got their game plan and a goal to defend as well. So that made it difficult for United. Having said that, we did have decent chances to win the game, and another day we win that 3 or 4-1. Having said that, West Brom could have won the game as well. Definitely a better point for West Brom. A really disappointing point for Manchester United. Probably the most thrilling game in terms of the goals and how the game sort of flowed. Arsenal 4, Leeds 2. Aubameyang scored a hat-trick, guys. He played up front, played with 3 players, sort of young, energetic players behind him, with Saka, Smith Rowe, and the new signing Odegaard. So that maybe has helped even Lacazette to a certain extent, because he's been playing quite a few games as a number 9. Having them younger players who've got lots of energy around them, and sort of creating space as well. So yeah, that was a really good win for Arsenal. Sorry, Leeds just played the way Leeds do. I think they were 4-0, possibly 4-0 down, or maybe 3-0 down, got a goal back, then conceded another. They always just keep going. There's a moral story with Leeds. They could be 4-0 down at half time, and it could end up 6-2. It could end up 4-4. It's one of those, like Leeds are just one of them teams. They're definitely the most exciting team to watch. Well, their games are definitely. And then they had the surprise game, which was Everton versus Fulham. We touched on it earlier. Really disappointing result for Everton. It sort of puts a dent in them and their sort of hopes for European football. Nevertheless, they are still in amongst it. It's not like that result's killed them and they can't do it anymore. There's still sort of 12, 14 games to go. Plenty of time for them to even push for the Champions League spots, dare I say it. And then the new lad for Fulham, who was signed in the January window, the lad Maja, who I mentioned last week. He obviously was part of the Sunderland documentary, Sunderland Till I Die. He scored 2 goals on his full debut, so that's a really good. So 3 points for Fulham, and they're the sort of results they need. Actually, they can't be getting too many draws, which they've been traditionally doing this season. They've been difficult to beat. They've had sort of about 10 draws, and now they picked up a W here, so that's a really good 3 points for them. Moving on to Monday, West Ham 3, Sheffield United 0. Declan Rice scored a penalty in this game, which was interesting to see that he's sort of the third in line for penalties after Noble whenever he plays, and then Antonio, but obviously both of them weren't on the pitch. It's a solid win. Fredericks got off the bench and scored as well. Another clean sheet, another assist for Cresswell, which he seems to be on fire at the moment in terms of contributions, certainly from set pieces. And then Chelsea won their game 2-0. Olivier Giroud scored as well in that game, so a good win for Chelsea, and that keeps Tuchel's sort of momentum going for them, and puts them actually into the top 4. They did actually put West Ham initially were in the top 4. They were there to kick off. They moved into the top 4, but then Chelsea won their game, and now they are in the top 4. So that's a sort of a good momentum and confidence they've gained since Tuchel's come in. I think they've only conceded 1 goal in maybe 7 games or 6 games. And then moving to last night's games, Burnley 1, Fulham 1. Could have done for this to be a draw, but a 0-0 ideally, with Burnley players involved in my sort of fantasy team. However, Barnes has scored an equaliser for Burnley, both goals early in the second half, and Fulham scored a goal from a set piece, so I'll probably say a draw was about right. I mean, I watched a bit of the game, couldn't see it all, but from what I saw, I'll probably say it was about right. And that 2 games for Fulham has been quite good, actually, picking up 4 points. It sort of puts the pressure on the teams above them a little bit. And then Everton versus Manchester City, finished 3-1 to Manchester City. Man City just keep rolling on. Richarlison had equalised for Everton after Foden had put Manchester City 1-0 up, but they turned it around in the second half and really put a bit of a clinic on in the second half, and it could have been 1 or 2 more potentially as well, with Mahrez and obviously Bernardo scoring the other 2 goals. Going to just have a look at game week 25, guys. Just going to preview some of the games, we won't go through everything. Where are we? So, the first game is a Friday night game. We've got Wolves versus Leeds. I expect this to be Leeds obviously just going to go for it like they always do every game. It's whether Wolves can withstand the pressure, and then if they can, the next phase of that is can they hit on the counter-attack with Traore, Neto, and then go and score, which they can do. So this game could be something like a 3-0 win to Leeds, but equally it just could be a 1-0 win to Wolves as well. Southampton versus Chelsea. I'll probably say, I'm going to predict now, I think Southampton will score in this game and put that sort of 1 goal conceded for Chelsea and Thomas Tuchel. That's going to double. Obviously, I'm going to predict that. I'm not saying they're going to win the game, but I think they're going to concede, certainly. Burnley versus West Brom, the game that Mike Dean will be officiating. This could be a 0-0, could be a scrappy 1-0 win for someone. We'll move on. The next game is, no disrespect to those 2 teams, but the next game to talk about, Liverpool versus Everton, a Merseyside Derby. Massive incentive for both teams. Liverpool win their game, they could go into the top 4, albeit temporarily, until West Ham play the next day. Or even Everton, if they win their game, they won't go into the top 4, but they will go ahead of Liverpool in the table. Or certainly join on points, so that just psychologically that can massively up. And how often can you say that about Everton? Not often at all, dare I say it. So that'll be a good game actually. And there were signs that Liverpool were back somewhere near their best midweek, but we'll have to wait and see. Fulham versus Sheffield United. This is a massive game. I do think the bottom 3 is done, but if Sheffield United can win this game, that really does dent Fulham's sort of beliefs and confidence. However, Fulham win this game, they are right in it. Like, they'll only be, I reckon, about 5 points behind. So it depends how other results go, but they'll be 5 points behind maybe Newcastle, which I wouldn't have thought that maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. So they are surprising the odds, if you like. Moving to the games on Sunday, you've got West Ham versus Spurs, you've got London Derby. Obviously Spurs are yet to play in Europe, so we don't know how they're going to fare there. It's the early kick-off as well, so dare I say Marino will be moaning about that, which I kind of get as well to a certain extent, because having said that, looking at the games actually, Man United are also playing on Sunday, they've got Europa League, so have Arsenal, so have Leicester, so someone has to play early. Anyway, let's not digress too much. Be a good game. I can see goals, even though Mourinho's team traditionally tried to play for the low to mid block. And you've got Son and Kane and whoever else plays, whether it be Moura, Bergwijn, them types of players sort of hit on transition. But I think it all depends if Antonio's fit. If he's fit, then obviously that adds a different dimension to the way West Ham play. Aston Villa versus Leicester. This is going to be a good game actually. Both teams in and amongst it. Obviously Leicester are joint 2nd or 3rd in the league, should we say. And Villa win this game, so they're another team who could run together. They've got a game in hand as well. They could creep into the European positions as well. You got the likes of Grealish and Watkins, who are doing really well at the moment for Villa, as well as obviously Martinez at the other end of the pitch. And then obviously Leicester have now got Vardy back, and Maddison and Barnes have been, I don't want to say carrying the team, but they've definitely stepped up to the mark when sort of Vardy's sort of been missing the last sort of week to 2 weeks. When he had his, I think it was a groin operation he had, or hernia. Arsenal versus Manchester City. Now, again, Arsenal have yet to play Europa League. They obviously have some travelling involved there against the irresistible Manchester City. I've dubbed this game in the past as sort of the apprentice versus the governor, if you like, Arteta versus Guardiola. It's going to be a good game regardless. Both teams are playing relatively well. I mean, Arsenal had a good win last week. If they can build on that in the Europa League as well. They can have a bit more confidence going into the Manchester City game. And obviously Manchester City are just going strength to strength. They're actually getting more bodies back. I touched on Kevin De Bruyne coming back last night. Gundogan could be back for this game. They've also got Aguero back on the bench the last couple of games as well. He could feature as well. So they're just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Man United versus Newcastle. Man United are very in different form at the moment. Again, they haven't played their European game yet, so we don't know exactly how they're going to sort of set up. Newcastle are very indifferent at the moment, and probably say slightly worse form than Manchester United. Having said that, they have picked up a couple of good wins recently. Moving on to the Monday night game, Brighton versus Crystal Palace. I think this is some sort of derby. It's like the main road that goes from Brighton to Crystal Palace. It's a derby. I'm pretty sure it is. It's like the A derby, or something like that. It might be A5 or something, I don't know. Brighton obviously have been really, really well, especially defensively recently, and have picked up some wins. Crystal Palace have been very, very indifferent, and they are a very different team when Zaha doesn't play, so he is a massive loss for them. I don't know if he's going to be back for that game either, so if he is back, then obviously it increases their chances of winning. If not, they're going to put their hopes on sort of Eze, the young lad, and Townsend and AU and all these types of players, Benteke. And then we've got a double round of fixtures, guys, or a fixture if you like. So Leeds versus Southampton is a Tuesday game. This is the extra game to game week 25. Obviously, we don't know how they're both going to fare in the first game. What we'll say is Leeds do have about 12 hours extra rest in this game, and also Southampton have got to travel as well. So we do not sure how this game is going to go. Nevertheless, both teams have got lots of energy. Both managers have got a lot of respect as well. So I think it'll be a very, very good game. I won't talk about that game too much. Okay. Guys, that actually rounds up another episode of the Premier League Appetiser Show. If you do like this type of video, please do drop it a like and do hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It does help the channel grow. We're just trying to grow it a little bit better and stronger and provide content for you guys, for people who like to sort of watch this type of stuff. And we also have got other things on the channel as well, like we've got tactics board and analysis. We've got a new segment which will be dropping on Sunday, which I won't discuss too much yet, but if you follow us on all our socials, on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, all that kind of things, you will see there's a new segment dropping on Sunday night as well. Guys, we'll leave it there and we'll see everyone next time.